You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Thank you for coming tonight to the Village of Wappinger Falls Mayor and Board of Trustees meeting for Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, please stay standing for a moment of silence for Mike Rodak, who recently passed away, a 68-year member of S.W. Johnson Firehouse. Thank you. He was a really good guy. I have two announcements. One, with respect to COVID, the governor has indicated she's released the mask mandate order. I think it's effective tomorrow. And the Emerald Ball event for the St. Patty's Day Parade is Saturday night. There's still some tickets available. You could contact Jack Fettigan for tickets, 297-1500. I don't know Trish Costello's number, but Trish Costello is another one you could contact. I didn't think there'd be a crowd, but it looks like they've been selling pretty good lately. So, with that said, we have a recognition of Miss Donna Contelmo, Chief Court Clerk.
I don't need John, you know it's going to come.
Oh, that'd be nice.
They want me to stand next to you. I know you don't want me next to you.
Aww.
Come on, Jennifer.
Stand in front of me. Yeah, that's good.
I'll do a couple. All right. Somebody else coming?
You all set?
Yeah,
Is Craig coming?
Yeah, I want them. Greg's
Okay, Craig.
the lawyer to be there.
I'm going to back up a little.
Village of Wappinger Falls Certificate of Recognition. Whereas Ms. Donna Contelmo will be honored by friends and relatives on the occasion of her retirement. And whereas during a long and productive career as Chief Court Clerk, she has demonstrated in countless ways her dedication to the welfare of others and has earned the respect and affection of people from all walks of life and ages. And whereas Donna has always taken the time to assist her fellow workers and court justices. Now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the village of Wappingers Falls, I do hereby deem it an honor and a pleasure to extend this certificate of recognition to Miss Donna Contelmo on the occasion of her retirement. With sincere congratulations and best wishes for many happier, productive years in the future. Rick Serino, Mayor.
That's just beautiful.
Congratulations.
And trustees, everybody has been wonderful, and I'm going to miss each and every one of you. This is great. One more picture.
Got it, no?
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Thank
I just
you.
want to make sure I had it on
Oh,
my face.
congratulations.
I've had a lot of friends along the way that I continue to, justices, both my judges,
You're
and
not gone yet because I haven't signed some papers.
I made a lot of friends along the way, and that's the best thing that could have happened. I love you all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Donna.
And you shouldn't be out this late at night.
That's my bedtime. I was looking for Heather. I was like, why isn't Heather? Where'd you go?
That concludes the recognition portion of the meeting. We'll now move into the regular meeting. If you wish not to stay for the rest of the meeting, you don't have to. But if you got 3 hours,
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Good night, Heather.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Have a
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for taking the time out of your
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
I'm safe.
Be careful. Glad to see you again. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Get home safe. I'll
Take care,
send them to
Lori.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I'll
I
see you.
appreciate that. Take care, Donna.
Roll call, clerk.
Mayor Serino,
Present.
Trustee Sidoti,
Here.
Trustee Ponte, absent. Trustee Nesnick,
Here.
Trustee Huber,
Present.
Trustee Ruffin,
Present.
Trustee Lauricella,
Here.
Village Attorney Wallace.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Action on the minutes, January 10th, January 12th, January 26th, all in 2022. Motion,
I'll make it.
is there a second?
Jen seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the mayor votes aye. Carried.
Ladies first, you know? There's no reason not to.
Finance Committee has done due diligence, so I will ask for a motion to pay the bills
I'll
as
make the
per
motion.
approved warrants.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Lauricella has made the motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Trustee Sidoti has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mayor votes aye. Resolution, clerk?
Resolution number 1, 2022 of 2022, a resolution adopting the retention and disposition schedule for the New York Local Government Records LGS-1. Be it resolved by the Village Board of the Village of Wappingers Falls that the retention and disposition schedule for New York Local Government Records LGS-1 issued pursuant to Article 57A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records is hereby adopted for use by all officials and officers in legally disposing of valueless records listed therein. And be it further resolved that in accordance with Article 57-A, only those records will be disposed of that are described in retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records after they have met the minimum retention periods described therein. B, only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum periods. I need a motion to accept that resolution.
What's the minimum period of it?
It varies by type of record. Some are indefinite, some are 6 years, 5 years. It varies depending on the nature of the item.
Who's gonna introduce it?
I'll make the motion.
Who wants to second it?
I'll second that.
Who was that? Mike?
Trustee Ruffin.
Roll call vote. Mayor Sereno,
Aye.
Trustee Huber,
Aye.
Trustee Sidoti,
Aye.
Trustee Nesnick,
Aye.
Trustee Ruffin,
Aye.
Trustee Ponte. Absent,
It's a no vote.
no vote. Adam Lauricella,
Aye.
carried. At this point, we are going to have a presentation by Mr. Larry Sprague about silt sucker and biochar process.
Thank you, John, for that nice introduction.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Should I speak into this? Would you like me to speak into this? Okay, can everyone hear me? I'm just kidding. Hey, thank you for having me. Very thoughtful of you to do this. This is a project that results from a grant that the community received several years ago to remediate some of the nutrient pollution that was going into Lake Wappingers watershed. And we've developed two pilot projects, which I will be in charge of. And one is one of the ones I'm working on with Kevin, which is to use the silt sucker that you have here in town and send and fill the silt sucker, connect the silt sucker with this filter, which is a large filter with these in it, which are biochar socks, which is activated carbon. And you're more than welcome to take a look at this sample of activated carbon if you'd like. It's a little messy, but you can pass it around. The idea being that we're going to see if we can take the pollution out of the sediment in the bottom of the lake. This is a small pilot project, but the idea being that I think we can remove some of the toxins that are have been collected in the sediment in the bottom of the lake, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, maybe some heavy metals, and some other pollutants that are there, and just to see if this works. So it's a pilot project. It was developed by myself and the former mayor. Kevin also knows much about it. And thank you. Kevin had me out there with the silt sucker, showed me all its wonder, and it's a great little tool there. So we're going to be connecting that with this filter, and Pissarro Engineering, Raul is here from Pissarro tonight, is going to be conducting testing on the sediments so we can see how effective the process is. So it's a small-scale pilot project, part of the effort that you have through the grant that you received from the state. And we hope to commence it sometime beginning of May. It'll last a day or two. And then we'll do testing, and we'll come back to you and tell you how it went.
I mean, Larry, how many days you gonna?
I think we'll do it 2 days, maybe a day and a half, depending on, I have to have the, I'll ask you about this, Kevin. I have to have the flanges changed on the filter because they're smaller than the silt sucker pipe is.
All right. Yeah.
So we're going to have to change that.
I mean, if you wanted to start in, I mean, May would be fine too. But I know depends on the weather, the weeds start coming up in May.
Oh, do they?
Well, it depends on the weather. If it starts getting warm, they start growing.
So maybe we should start it earlier then.
Like you could start at the beginning of May into April.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we do that then? Okay. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want we don't want the growth coming in there.
No.
We want to have the sediment clear of it.
We can
Yeah.
work around that dock area.
Yeah, that's what we thought. Yeah, this would take place at Vets Field, which is at the end of Spring Street. The other project takes place in Green Pond, which is at the corner of New Hackensack Road and St. Nicholas Road, up here in Wappinger Falls near the Dutchess County Airport. Green Pond is a 6-acre pond. It's heavily polluted. I don't know if you have driven by there in the summer, but you'll see that the place is basically weeds and overcome with phosphorus and nitrogen from all kinds of runoffs from, I expect, commercial properties as well as residential sewers. Septic systems aren't working terribly well. So what we're going to do there is we're going to put biochar socks, these socks, as I mentioned earlier, here. We'll put about 90 of those in. We'll tie one top with a floater so you'll see it, be able to see it. The other with a cinder block. And we'll drop them in and we'll keep them there for, I think, 90 days to see how that works out. The expectation is, from other projects I've done this on, it will show dramatic improvements in the outlet, the water that flows out of the dam over that, off St. Nicholas Road, even though there's a dam there. You'll see dramatic reductions in the amount of phosphorus and nitrogen going into the watershed. Again, this is a pilot project to see how it works out. And if it does, you can apply for another grant. We can do it on a larger scale if it works.
Cool. Sounds promising.
Yeah, it is. I think it will work. I've done it other places, and we were going to do it in the outlet below the falls, but we found that the biochar actually works better when it has what's called dwell time, which means it's time basically to soak in the water. So we changed it. We put it in the pond instead. So.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
So biochar is essentially activated charcoal, and then
Yeah, especially processed charcoal.
okay.
Yes, in furnaces that take old dead trees and heat them at high temperatures through various sequences. And what it does is it expands their absorption capabilities, if you will, their surface area in which they can trap nitrogen and phosphorus particles, as well as other things. You can do microplastics, you can do pharmaceuticals and pesticides. But we're basically testing the nitrogen and phosphorus because those seem to be the predominant pollutants that are really messing up the lake. As you all know, the lake looks pretty bad in the summertime. I think what this will do with Green Pond, it will clean it up, and it will also reduce, if not eliminate, the odor that comes off the pond, which some of the neighbors I've spoken with will be very happy with that.
So a high nitrogen concentration on that biochar, that explains why the byproduct can be used by landscapers.
Exactly. We have a landscaper down in Peekskill who's willing to take it and use it as a soil amendment. Or we could actually give it to your Parks Department if they'd like to use it on the.
Yeah,
It's good. I'm happy to do whatever you think is appropriate.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the reason for, so you're gonna hook it up to the weed sucker, or the silt sucker
Yeah, it's
on one, but on the other project, what is the reason for doing different things? Just
Well,
curious.
that was what I guess the former mayor wanted to do. So that's what I designed the project around. So I guess what we wanted to do is see if there was a way to remedy the pollution that was in the sediment itself, as opposed to the water. So the Green Pond project is actually looking at how we react with the water.
I see.
And the silt sucker project is exactly looking at how we can remediate potentially the sediment. Because the sediment is quite toxic from what I can see. And if we can remediate that in a way that's satisfactory and affordable, then we could certainly improve the overall quality of the lake so people could enjoy it.
So that box in that photo that you sent,
Yeah.
I'm just asking because I'm.
Yeah, it's like a big fish filter.
Down.
No, that's going to be sitting on the shoreline, and we're going to have the silt sucker out there. Kevin or one of his colleagues is going to be out there, and we're going to be sucking it in and pushing it through the filter. We're going to be testing it before it goes in, testing it where it comes out, and see what kind of remediation qualities we are able to establish.
You're bringing it in, filtering it, putting it back in.
And the filter itself is designed to be serpentine, and the reason that is because that maximizes the exposure and the interaction between the biochar and the water. That's the purpose there.
Just lining of some.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a big fish filter for those of you who are familiar with aquariums.
That's far out. Huh.
One other question, do you have maybe some kind of estimate on how much toxic sediment is currently intruded into that area?
Well, I think we might be able to find that out, right?
Larry, did you get the binder I gave to Cindy?
No.
I gave her a binder that Casey did a study
I'd like to see that.
on the lake, and
Yeah.
also helped out on that. So what they did was, I think it was 7 or 8 locations throughout the lake. We
That'd
went
be
out.
great to see.
They had to go down 3 feet and get 3 feet of sediment.
Yep.
And they got it out, and they sent it out to get sampled. Somebody in Newburgh did it.
Right.
And there's like a bunch of numbers. I don't know how to read all the numbers to it.
Right.
The first couple hundred pages of the history of the lake, but the rest of it is
Right.
all numbers.
Yeah, well, wait, if it works, and if there's grant money available, we could actually put it in parts of the lake, and what you'll find is that the water will clear up nicely. There'll be very little invasive species growth, and you'll actually see the lake, the depth of the lake increase.
Yeah.
Because what happens is once the water is cleared out from the pollution, it begins rising out of the sediment. And when it does that, the sediment begins to shrink down, and the lake actually becomes deeper.
There is, I don't know much about the spot, but there is one spot in the lake, and it's on the other side behind the water plant, and it's probably a 10-foot radius that weeds never grow in there.
Huh.
It's like kind of clear, but it never grows. I don't know what's about over there. Or
Is that near the graveyard?
yeah.
I was going to say maybe some spirits who are at work there.
There's one other question.
Sure.
Should we find this successful, and I bet you we will. How long would what kind of time frame would that take to when you decided to implement it?
Oh, it'll be quick. You'll know these results by the end of the summer.
Oh, yeah.
No, I know we know the results, but then when we know the results and we're like, okay, we've got more funding, we're gonna,
right.
because this is to see,
This is to see how the efficacy, yes.
and then we know it's happening. How long do you think it would take to remediate the lake?
Well, I mean, the lake is 70 acres, is it not?
88.
88 acres? Okay. So some quick math says, yeah, I would say it would take, what would happen with the lake is we'd have to begin in the spring, and we'd most likely put 8 socks per acre in. So 8 times 88. I'm sorry, my math, I need a my cell phone is the only one that does math.
700
Almost
or so.
800.
I'm sorry?
Almost 800.
Yeah, it's almost 800. So it'd be, we could do it. Yeah, we could do it. The other thing you could do is the bridge that goes across Route 9. We could actually set up a series of, so before it comes into the lake from the creek, which might be less interrupting for people to if they want to be fishing in the lake and don't want to have to dodge all these things there, these monitors that are sticking out of the lake, so we could keep it in there. We could do it there too. We would probably use 500 or 600 there.
So would it just take a season, you think? Or would it
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But then again, we'll have to see how the sediment responds, because if there's as much sediment as that study is indicating, there'll be a lot of toxins in there.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. But it's a start. And what you'll see is, and will please people, is that it will begin to clear up and clean up, and that will be nice for people to see. What they won't like is, I said earlier, when the sediment begins to release its own toxins, it will re-green up for a while, and then we'll have to suppress it again. And it'll be a cycle until that and that it'll be fewer times to do it. They'll come back one very strong, we'll suppress it, and it won't come back as strongly next time. So it could take a year to do it.
Cool. It's
So-
exciting.
Yes.
So just so you know, in certain areas by the bridge, I was informed that there is up to 18 inches of toxic sediment.
It doesn't surprise me.
All right. Do you still think that number that you threw out at us is accurate?
18 inches of toxic waste.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Is this being recorded? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, it is.
You're on TV.
Oh, geez, great. Well, is this going to go on YouTube? I'm in trouble now, guys. In any case, I would say that we'd have to do a test and have someone do a very thorough test, which sounds like at least there's foundation for that information from the KC study that you had done several years ago. And then build a plan around that.
All right. Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
The next update will be LAJ Solutions, Miss Laura Java. I'll draw your attention to this book, the handout. It's in there if you want to follow along. It's the second page in.
Good evening. I am not going to inundate you with more information, but I did prepare an update for you, so this way you can take it home, and if you have any questions for me, then feel free to either call me or email me. Can you hear me? So I've been trying to unravel some of the existing grants that you had while trying to work on new things by speaking with department heads to see what what necessities you have and what needs there are. I had prepared a memorandum in December for all of you about the water filtration plant, which everybody knows is a necessity, and the sewer line that we had talked about. So here's a little bit of an update that I had prepared for some of the grants that are outstanding, because I think it's important that you know the status of them. So the first one was an EPG grant that came from the EFC in New York State, and that grant was to do a study for grease traps. It was a new one on me, but it was a study that had been applied for because they said the density and the small footprint of the village and the grease traps, that it was affecting the wastewater and the sewer systems. Unraveling this has been quite interesting because there was an agreement made with your engineering firm and a contract saying that the study would be conducted in accordance to the guidelines that EFC requires. And in the guidelines, it says that there's a report on the study that is to be done, and within the report needs to be some sort of a conclusion. And the conclusion needs to have a suggested capital infrastructure plan or an investment program or a project. The report lacked that. The report was in June, and it lacked that. So the EFC had already dispersed $15,000 to the village to start the grant. The grant had contracted a total amount of $36,000. So the village had received $15,000. Now we are trying to recoup the rest of the money. The EFC will not give us the rest of the money until we provide them a full report. And well, it gets a little bit better. So there's also in-kind money that's built in there that could essentially pay for myself or the previous grant writer, and I can fill out all those forms. But we're really at a dead stop because it was expiring. So I asked them, please give us a chance. Administration had changed, and that I was coming in to try to address this. So they will consider an extension, but with the extension, we need to provide a completed report. I had reached out to the engineer firm that was in contract and an agreement, and they said that they have concluded their report, and this is the final report. So,
Can I just ask you, so their
Sure.
concluded report was not
what the guidelines.
and that those guidelines were clearly
Yeah.
laid out at the time that they accepted the contract to do the grease trap assessment.
Correct. So to your point, what I did was I provided that firm with all the attachments, just in case. I said, well, perhaps you didn't get these, but here's the guidelines, here's this, here's that.
Talking about Casey.
Yes.
Okay.
And my response was, yes, we have all that. And that's my report. I have given the report. I'm not here to
No, it is
stir
what it is.
It is what it is. And I want you to know where we're at. So, in a nutshell, I had said to them, I had worked with this point person before in a previous municipality, and I said, please, we've just gotten a total cost bill from the firm, and they've already expended 22,000 and change. We've only received 15. They said, well, if this doesn't come to pass, we have to take the money back, and you'll be the first municipality, basically, that we've had to do that. I said, can we please try to, with a new administration, a new person coming in, can we make some sort of concession, perhaps maybe, to speak to a different firm to see if they can amend an addendum to that report, because we still have money available. And
When you say take the money back, does that mean?
15,000.
Does that mean we pay for it then?
Essentially. So, the point person had said, let me speak to our upper echelon, and I'll get back to you. And I pretty much pleaded, and they came back and said, yes, if you can find a firm that will amend the report and use it as an addendum, they can refer to it, they can speak to it, they can do, but come up with what would be the recommendation, what is the proposal, and then we can do our in-kind and what have you. So I am, I bring this to the board for several reasons. I've already spoken to the mayor and I've spoken to the village clerk, but I just wanted to make sure the only way this can be successful is if everybody is apprised of what's going on. So that's where I'm at. I think I have pretty much been able to find, somebody that, a firm that may be willing to do it and finish the report as an addendum. And if that, as long as it's okay with the board, then once that report is finalized, as long as it meets all the guidelines, we will get the rest of our money and we can put in for in-kind expenses for myself or and the previous grant writer. So I think it's a win-win situation. It's worth a shot because at this point we're really just at a stop.
And potentially liable for 15,000.
And we've already paid 22 and change. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Have we fully paid KC?
I didn't ask because I don't really have a treasurer that I can go to readily, but I'm sure we have. No, I'm sure we have because the report was given to EFC in June of 2021. So this was expiring. That's how this grant came to my attention. And that I've literally had to kind of cajole and massage this entire thing to try to get to where we are now. But I just thought that the board, the mayor is aware, and he said to bring it to the board, and I just felt that it was your right to know this, and that, I think our best course right now would be to try to move forward with that, since they've given us permission to do it.
And this new engineer,
I'm still working on that, yeah.
if he agrees or he or she agrees, will be.
We'll refer to that report and try to, finish the report.
But with the remaining money, they could be paid through that,
Yes.
plus we won't
Yep.
be on the hook.
I've told them what we've had allowable. I've told them what we have left as far as engineering costs is available. And pretty much, and just a little, because I wanted to have something to tell you. I didn't get 100%, confirmation, but they pretty much were doing it, would be considering it for goodwill to try to help us. Because we're in a,
As incredible as it is, it just further shows that
well,
this was a problem.
I think there's been I'm sorry?
Thank you for all your efforts. That's extremely disappointing to hear this, be appraised of that, and
I was a little disappointed, but I think there's a light at the end of this tunnel, and if we just continue, being persistent, I think we'll get there. So as long as I have your support on that, I'm going to continue to try to dig that up.
and the new engineer will either amend the other report?
Well, they would have to refer to it, yeah, they'd have to do an addendum, because nobody really wants to say, well, that's my work.
Right.
It's like plagiarism, so, and I don't expect them to do that either. But EFC is already aware of what's going on, because they've granted us the authority to do it.
Okay.
Lord,
Yes, I'm
can
sorry.
I talk about the engineering practice part of that?
Sure, do you mind? This is the gentleman that's working on the LWRP grant.
So I'm here representing Passero, right, for the LWRP project. But I just wanted the board to understand in the engineering profession, right, how this would work. So KC, right, did the initial report?
I believe.
Yes.
Right. So they will have that. So as an engineer, I can't just simply, I'm going to use myself as an example, just as an abstract example, right? The engineer can't just simply take someone else's work and put our names on it, right, blankly, right? What you want from KC is a complete report with their data, their findings, et cetera. It sounded like it was missing a conclusion and recommendations, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
And so, for example, if I were to do this right, me as the engineer would take that report as a statement of data, right, and draw on that to develop conclusions, et cetera. I would not be putting my name on that report, but rather on as you refer to, an addendum or whatever you want to call it, that comes up with recommendations, right? That was
Citing their
my
work.
work, right? If you wanted me to verify KC's work, you'd have to pay for that to that engineer again, right? Because again, you can't just simply rubber stamp things. Again, what I'm doing here is just pointing out the process, understanding the liabilities and who's responsible for what and what you're getting out of this.
And that's pretty much what the FC
Yeah.
really needs. They need a stamp saying this would be the conclusion that we would recommend.
No.
Right.
Because studied money
Right,
is...
but another engineer would say, this, based on the data provided,
Right.
this is the conclusion that we would come with,
Correct.
provided this, is-
Correct.
yeah, it's like writing a paper.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first of several.
Yeah.
And not, like I said, not to get into too deep into all of them, but the next one, and this is just, actually, I had written this a couple days ago, there's been more that's come to light today. This is a CDBG grant that was from Dutchess County in regards to Padgy Terrace and the sewer line with Habitat's homes at the cul-de-sac. So you can see there's notes in there, and those notes come directly from my phone calls in the last few days with the county as I've been working on this for the last month. Yeah, you can read it. I mean, it really, we don't have to. It's been taking me a long time, essentially, to get to the bottom of a lot of this. So in the beginning of January, I was essentially told we could not get reimbursement for our engineering costs because the engineer was not procured correctly. So I was like, oh, what can we do? Because we had to put in reimbursements by the middle of January. They said, no worries, we'll take that money and we'll put that towards your construction costs. I was like, oh, thank you. I didn't want to lose all the money. However, now the project I've confirmed is fully completed, and we have no RFPs in the village and no bidding. And I'm like, well, who did this project? I found out there was a contractor that did it, but essentially I do not believe 99% sure that the village has taken action on that contractor. That contractor was used through the other partnership of this grant. If that is the case, that money essentially is not for that. So I would go to the county and say, here's our predicament. There had been a change in administration again. I mean, could we try to repurpose that for something else? But
When was this?
I've been working on it since January.
No, when was the original, like, when
I
did they procure, when did they
think
do
it was like 2019 they started this, because it's been an ongoing project.
Right. 'Cause that was piggybacked off the other Habitat for Humanity? Like,
It was this
part
like
of
second
that.
phase. It was a different one, but
Second phase, but tied into.
yeah, and it's a good feels. Of course the county wants to help. It's a good feels. It's like, we're doing the right thing by helping homeowners, and we are, but we can't be left paying this bill. So I'm still working on that, and I'm going to be working with the attorney tomorrow because there's been new things that have come to light today that we'll discuss at the next time. So you can read about that. Firehouses, that's a good thing, I think. I met with Trustee Huber last month to say, what is it that we need in our first responders? What is there a list? I've never really seen a grant for an exhaust hood before, or a couple of the other things that they needed, but I also realize that we're dealing with two major firehouses that have handled quite a bit of fires in the last, let's even say, decade for that matter. And then we discussed the fact that in every time this has happened, especially the last couple of fires that we've had, we've really never had a distribution place or a command center. We've been grateful to the Zion Church, to the American Legion, and to the Knights of Columbus that have let us, do clothing and food and information and places so we could, gather and take care of business. So I spoke to Trustee Huber. I'm like, I don't think that we have designated emergency shelters or distribution centers. So I confirmed that with the Red Cross. There are none. So I said to the Red Cross, we're interested because that makes us fundable, for things we may need that are a little bit out of the box. So I arranged an appointment with the Red Cross, the village clerk, myself, Trustee Huber. We did site inspections and site surveys, and we met with the different people at the firehouses, and village clerk had gotten us into the American Legion. The Red Cross was very grateful that we are taking the initiative to try to make a place where we would have either distribution centers or command posts, what have you. It would be great for funding then, because we could essentially say we need X, Y, or Z. So they're going to get us back a report, and then we'll see if it's worth it for us to do that. That was another initiative we were working on. Bus patrol program, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview about that. The mayor had tasked me with sorting this out. It's a new initiative that falls under local law 1174A from 2020 that the county had initiated about people passing flashers on buses. Route 9 is the major corridor. People do it all the time. Both ways people are passing. It is a Dutchess County initiative. Every school district is on board. I had to do a Zoom call with the county and the bus program themselves, as well. City of Poughkeepsie was on my call. What it is all Wappingers buses current are already implemented. There are devices on top of the buses, and they are already in effect, and there's a warning period going on right now. Where you pass the bus, it captures your plate. They do all the work. They send the violation to the person that is registered to. First fine is $250. Second fine within 18 months is $275. The third fine is $300. I was going to ask at what point do they take legal action, but who am I? So I didn't want to say anything. But essentially what happens is then all the money goes through their program. We can actually sign up for Alert Bus, which we will sign up for. We can check our revenue, and we get 10% of it. So we do nothing except for we have to just make sure that we're in the agreement. On the call was Owen Rafter, the Director of Planning, Bill O'Neill, everybody from the county. So we are right now in the warning phase. February 17th, we go live. So after February 17th, people that start passing flashers are going to start getting violations in the mail.
I gotta tell you, I was behind a school bus today.
You thought about it?
Well, I saw it. I didn't know. I was behind a school bus, kids walking, and a car with two young girls goes flying right by them.
And she's been on tape.
Bus is honking its horn,
Yeah.
and me and my husband are going, look at that.
And she'll get a warning notice because until February 17th.
It's so little money.
Well,
When you think of when you
there should be an arrest involved in this, but
that just seems like a little amount of money.
maybe we can get constables, I don't know. But, so that's the new program, and as it comes in the fold, and I'm going to be working with the clerk to get it live on your end, and then you can monitor it through your system. So they have software for that. The next thing is Dutchess County MIG Tri-Muni. This grant was expiring. This grant was for not that it's really your problem directly, but it is our portion of Tri-Municipal. They had applied for a grant for the digester and the sludge issue that they had over there. The grant was going to expire. Tri-Muni has not done their upgrades yet. We asked for an extension. They've granted us the extension. I was at the last Tri-Muni board meeting because they were discussing grant funding for their big capital project. We may or may not need this. If not, we were going to ask if we can repurpose it towards what Tri-Muni eventually does. So I just want to let you know it's still out there. That's $120,000. Environmental Facilities Corp. has a hardship loan program available to us. It's been out there. This is for just wastewater only, so if Tri-Muni's project has to come through their big one that they've estimated at approximately $12 million, I believe the village's responsibility is about 40% because there's other partners involved. We have up to $11 million and change that is earmarked if we needed to do it right away without grant funding at 0% but you're allowed to keep seeking grant funding for as long as you want within that 30 years to try to offset that cost. So I just want to let you know that it's out there, it's available if the project with Tri-Muni should come to pass. That was water filtration plant. I think if you read my memo, you understand where we're at. We're on borrowed time there. I have spoke with the county about a grant that had expired in June of last year. That grant was pretty interesting to me. It was written in 2017, and I had worked with the mayor on that one myself because I was at the other end of it with EFC. It was for $120,000, and it was to finish negotiations with the town of Wappinger for the emergency connection at Losey and Myers, and for infrastructure costs. It was never used because it didn't happen. So the grant had expired. I have gone to the county and personally asked if they would consider allowing us to use it because it is within the same scope, working with the shared municipality, in this case, town of Poughkeepsie, because that's the problem that we're addressing right now with the water filtration. I spoke with the director of planning yesterday. I had to put it in writing. They're going to give us a determination. From what I gathered, it doesn't seem so far-fetched that that they wouldn't let us use it because it is essentially for the same thing, and this is the predicament we're in with our water plant right now. So that's $120,000 that we I mean, I'm sure the village attorney knows how much we have to negotiate with the town of Poughkeepsie, and that's coming down, but that is part of our requirement with the Department of Health. So on that note, I had to put in there that we have a strong deadline with the Department of Health and the town of Poughkeepsie. So I will definitely have an update with you really soon on that. Other grants that we're looking for your water filtration plant, because I know you're working on that on the water board. County Grants is coming out with their MIG grants, their Municipal Innovation Grants in March. They always have water and infrastructure grants, as well as I personally spoke to the senator 2 days ago, and we have a conference call coming up this week, because right now, everything's a budget season. So there's really no funding until the next rounds come out, which is within a few months, but we needed this immediately. So as that comes to pass, I'll let you know. Historical, I did meet with Beth Devine and Christina Unger, and John had actually stopped by during that meeting. They were concerned about the roof on the homestead. There's a little bit of a debate here. You know, is the roof old enough where it needs to be replaced? Is it more aesthetic? Is it more structural? We had a long conversation about it. I think we are saying it's approximately 22 to 23 years old. My recommendations I put in here, I don't necessarily think we should just write a grant for a new roof if we don't need one. So with that said, we would suggest that perhaps we get some sort of engineering structural report on it to see, and that helps in 3 ways, which I've listed there for you. We would need it anyways for a grant. We would need some sort of report, and we would then know if yes, it needs to be done or it doesn't need to be done, and is it critical or is it something that we can just wait for a grant. In the meantime, a historical preservation grant has come available for studies, where they would look at your historical buildings and you could apply for structural engineering or what have you. I would recommend that that's the way we would go first, because the village clerk said perhaps then maybe in the spring we could then see if we can get an engineer report on the roof. So that would be my recommendation. DPW, I had a meeting with the superintendent of highways, Paji. I've listed their concerns. You know what their concerns basically are from my memorandum in December. There is obviously the wastewater money through the EFC. If we needed to use, I would only say to use that money as a hardship if it was critical, because each year EFC comes up with WIA money, which is for water, and WIC, which is for sanitary sewer. So I have it on my radar. We speak periodically, and then I'll come to you when it's time for us to apply for something like that. Police department. This is something that we're working on right now, because when I spoke with your Commissioner Ferry, he was very concerned about the files as far as, oh, and welcome. I think you knew I was talking about you. So maybe he can talk to it. When I spoke with Commissioner Ferry, really we have an issue with system and software. And IT, and if you want to talk about it afterwards, I'm sure they would be more than welcome to listen. We have a problem with storing files, confidential files. You know, we're dealing with something that's antiquated, more or less. So he had given me a name of a system software that has been used and that could help the village. My goal now has been to speak, when I had my conversation yesterday with Dutchess County Planning, which municipalities are applying, or where is there a license that we can share off of, which is what they do, would be a shared service grant, to try to help alleviate this problem, because this is critical, especially for juveniles. You don't really want anybody to get a hold of those confidential files. So the other stuff that we spoke about is in there, and that pretty much sums it up as far as stuff that's been going on in your departments. I did speak to Judge Chase briefly earlier tonight, and the JCAP comes out once a year. It's already been done. They've already applied for it. Next year, he says he wants to talk about stuff that the village courtrooms might need. And that's pretty much it. I did get a letter in the mail that I guess the previous grant writer had written a grant for a CFA, which was for the water filtration, and the CFA grant was denied. So I asked them if they could send me back the application so I can at least look and see, you know, what was written in the narrative. Has something changed since then? So, any questions for me?
Thank you.
No.
Sorry, I don't mean to give you a book, but I think it's,
Excellent.
you need this, so I just wanted, if you have any questions, please feel free, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you?
I am in receipt of a letter from PERMA. PERMA is our comp carrier out of Albany. And you know that I've said it in the past, I headed up a safety committee for the past 3 years here in the village. And because of our efforts here in the village, we were selected #1 for New York State in safety awareness. And they would like to take that and put it into their letters that go out that the village of Wappingers Falls is a leader in municipal safety. I would ask permission from the board to allow them to do that.
Sure.
Do you want that in a motion?
I think it would be nice to do it in a motion. I'll put in with my records. What they're saying is PERMA would like to highlight the village's great work in collaborating and earning the 2021 Safety Award. PERMA's site assessment and consultation help with the village of Wappingers Falls improve their business operations. The municipal formed a safety committee, created a safety manual, inspected each of their public buildings, and corrected 100% of the safety hazards identified, earning PERMA's Risk Management Award in 2021. It's a big, nice plaque, not a plaque, it's actually an artifact that I have upstairs. Wappingers Falls Safety Committee did more than fix problems. They changed how the village leadership approached their commitment to the safety and well-being of their employees and residents. John Clarge, Village Clerk. I'm very honored to have had that team work with me for the past 3 years. And we continue to meet now bi-monthly. And we still go around to all the other buildings and see if we see anything that's not safe. And we make corrections. Which leads me into the next item. But if I could have approval.
I'll entertain a motion to allow PERMA to use the report with the village in their manual.
I'll second it.
Trustee Loricella and trustee Niznik.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Carried.
Okay, you probably noticed I made significant changes and corrected different problem areas with regards to safety. For example, next door, the stairwell now is enclosed. It was open before. So now we have it enclosed and we have a nice clean storage area for our things. I have one remaining door in the police department basement that actually swings in. If you want to get out, you would have to have a lock, some kind of a special lock on it. You would have to unlock it, pull it in, and then go out up the stairs and get out. Our contractor we've been using, Peter Winheim, actually came up with a better plan than what we have. We can reduce the size of the door from 5 foot to 40 inches and have it swing out with a crash bar, not unlike that door. So it's always locked from the outside, but if you had to get out in a hurry, you just hit the crash bar and run up the stairs and you're out. He was a low bid of $3,300 to do that. It's a sizable amount of work because you have to take the double doors out now and the frame, put that away, put the 40-inch door in, and then frame up and make it match the building because it is a historical building. So the outside looks like it's always been there. I would like the board to approve, for safety reasons, that low quote and have contractor Winheim do that job as well.
Is there a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay.
Kevin Huber and trustee Sadati on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mayor votes aye.
Thank you. We'll get that done within the next month or so. Okay, trustee Loricella would like to talk about parking on Hillside and Church Street Extension.
Yeah, so I was contacted by a few residents actually, and just to let the board know, back I would say it must have been maybe March of April of last year. I don't remember. Does anybody remember when we walked it? Mike, Trustee Ruffin?
It would be, I would say, probably April of last year.
Yeah, it was still kind of cold, and we walked and kind of assessed the situation based on previous complaints by several residents, and Basically, the challenge is on Hillside Avenue. If anyone is familiar with the road, it's particularly narrow, causing a lot of issues should fire trucks need to get through. We walked it. At one time, I lived there, and during the governor's shutdown of small business, I sat on that porch every day for about 4 months. During that time, some of the firehouses were doing training, and I would get a front row seat of them attempting to negotiate the road, make the turn down to West. There's also an extension. One of the biggest issues there is an extension road that goes to another residence that is also narrow and causing problems, particularly in the wintertime. The biggest issue is most of the people parking there are the homeowners, who also, oddly enough, have driveways. Ample parking for themselves to park in their parking spaces, and they're just not. So it's causing a safety issue. It's a real issue. If you guys would like to check it out, you'll see that fire trucks are not going to be able to get to certain homeowners. They're just not. Or they'll have to, I don't know, maybe the firemen will crush the car and push it into the yard to get to save the kids that live in the house. That's what I guess I would do if I drove a fire truck. So we looked at it. I think that our position was to, legislate where there's, 2-hour parking. If you have a guest and you can't fit in your driveway, then you can park on the road for a limited period of time. But the road you must know the history of it. Actually, you live right around the corner. There must be some history as to why the road is so narrow, but it's so narrow. And there's residents that park right across from driveways to where I've watched people have to.
Are you more or less talking about Hillside Avenue per se?
I'm talking about both. Well, that one's narrow, and I guess the extension's narrow because it's an extension. I don't know.
It's actually just Church Street.
Yeah. Anything past Hillside Avenue up the hill, that traditionally never was used.
Right. Okay.
Okay? And then as a little bit more development came, now you see it's used till its entirety because there's a house built at the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm not a fan of, having to, expand rules and regulations and insert ourselves into this, but when there's a lack of consideration and it becomes a public safety issue and residents are concerned that they're at risk should there need to be emergency vehicles, then I think we need to now take it seriously. We're coming up on a year of us doing our initial assessment, and we just need to take it upon ourselves to make the decision. However we do that, I would elect that we start to follow through with what the residents are asking us to do.
Do they park there during the curfew also, December 1st?
No, oftentimes they'll do it throughout the day when you can park, and then come 11 o'clock, they clean up the street. But, fires happen during the day too.
Right.
It is tight up there. I've gone up there with the fire truck myself for a couple automatic fire alarms, and it is tight. And I know one Johnson will come up West Street if we have to go to Hillside, and W.T. Garner's will come up Church Street to go to Hillside, and vice versa for Downey Avenue. This way we can just meet in the middle, kind of thing. So.
And the simple thing is, it's so far isolated that, it's not like just the general, like a village visitor who's going to come in and spend some time in the village is parking there. It's like you got to go there. There has to be a reason why you're going there. So you can park residents can park in their driveways, in my opinion, for if they're long extended periods of time.
So was the legislative committee going to propose a local law change for that?
There is some paperwork on that.
We're looking at it right now, actually.
Because this is kind of a continuation of something we already worked on some 9 months ago.
Just keep in mind that if you want to do several local law changes, it's good to do them all at once rather than do them piecemeal, because you pay individually otherwise. They cost on average
Yeah.
about $3,000.
One of the things that I appreciate that we did try to package, and I feel like sometimes when we're trying to pull all these things together, we're becoming impotent.
Well, three or four.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, that was what we were working to do, and then 9 months passed. And the phone still calls about these
Yeah.
issues.
I was wondering what was going on there with that.
So, we're having a little sidebar here, but we want to include you. So this
Thanks.
local law, no worries, was originally drafted by Craig in July.
Okay.
And we definitely want to add to it. But again, what we had wanted to do was change the schedule of one-way streets. And then we wanted to amend the parking rules on West Street. So on the north side of West Street, west of Route 9D.
Yep.
For that reason, because you can't, if people are parked on both sides, when we walked it.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, there was no way a fire truck could get through there. Definitely. So if you want to add to this before we ratify it, that is fine. I mean, we want to.
Well, we walked the whole thing. It's just since then, nobody's told me about West. I've only been hearing about Hillside. I have no problem with West. But we walked West, we walked all Hillside, and then we did nothing.
West Street hasn't been bad lately, believe it or not. I mean, Adam probably can.
We have the local law in place, but we might ask Craig to add a couple things to include the no parking signs that may or may not be legal by the water tower on Hillside.
Yeah, we need to include the water tower,
Yeah.
Church Street extension, Hillside Avenue.
And at one point, John Clark had looked into a parking spot by Reservoir Place that is not conforming where that crosswalk is.
There was somebody parking there today.
That is very
extreme
dangerous
hazard.
there.
We brought that up, and we definitely need to change that.
We've talked about it repeatedly. We have to add that to it.
Yeah.
I've walked out there and
It's
I've
super
even
dangerous.
hesitated to go across until everybody has stopped.
So is this something we can make happen?
So I recirculated this local.
Yep, I have it here.
And I need your input and, any additions. I also circulated, we can discuss this in the enforcement committee, but the amending our fees.
Yep.
With our building department, zoning and planning.
So would the fees go into this
Yeah,
package?
the fee should be adopted as a local law.
But in this package?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the only thing I ask is that can we put a date of responsibility where okay, this is when we're gonna make this happen. I'm not putting that on you. I'm saying myself, holding myself to it too. But how we're doing in these where we're saying okay, we're taking responsibility. This is the date that this is gonna happen, because I just can't. You just can't keep. We gotta check things off the box. I can't keep doing it.
John?
So what is the
next step,
acceptable amount of time?
the next step would be for the village attorney, his office, to prepare a legal notice, give it to me, to put it in the newspaper, scheduling a hearing.
Okay.
At the same meeting you have the hearing, you can also adopt that local law.
Okay.
Can probably be done in April.
So is the legal notice can be prepared for the 23rd of February.
Okay.
And
now we're talking.
That's so long as you get your comments back so that we can actually have a law in place to circulate.
Yeah.
All right, for public hearing. There could be changes out to that public hearing.
Sure.
You may like to hear some of the residents' comments, and we may change the local law. But, I want you to, I recirculated it yesterday. I want you to just fish it out.
Sure.
Give us, some comments, and then we'll incorporate those. And that will be what, John Karsh will circulate for the public hearing. Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Quick question to John. John, because that parking space is non-conforming, and we've already looked into it, is it one parking space that we have to remove, or two? And then do we need a local law to do that, or should that just be restriped?
That, when I researched it, that is a state road
Right.
and they have a requirement, so many feet, that would eliminate 2 spaces. You lose 2 spaces in a very, area where you don't have a lot of parking to begin with.
The
But
unfortunate thing is
It's
it's
gotta
so
be done.
unsafe.
it is, it's not safe.
So we don't need to include that in the local law?
We cannot.
We
We
cannot,
have to,
okay.
without discussing with you.
They just told me eliminate it,
Right, so, okay, so in order to eliminate it,
put a sign up.
are we calling,
Well, we have to put DOT on notice of anything we do on a state road.
understood?
So that is a conversation we're going to have to broach with them.
Yeah,
Okay,
because there's parking markings out there and they'll have to come and grind it.
okay, so who's gonna walk that? Who's gonna walk with me on that to make sure that gets done?
Well, do we need a motion on this, and how do we proceed?
No, we can,
Who's responsible for restriping it? Because it's like, there's markings there.
Well, DOT did this.
The state will have to come in and grind them out.
Right,
state DOT.
state DOT.
Lovely.
It's their
No, is that highway? I don't know.
Our highway guys cannot work on a state road.
No, I mean, who's gonna drive it?
That's what I'm asking, like, so now that we've said, okay, it has to be done, the state has already said we should remove the 2, we gotta remove 2. What now?
We'll call the local liaison over at
Okay.
Burnett Boulevard and find out who we have to talk to in order to make it happen and see if it can even happen.
Is that something you want me to do?
Please.
Thank you for taking
Thank you.
responsibility. of that.
You want it done? Okay, I get it.
Yeah, we'd like it done, so if you
We
could do
want
it.
it done, we know you're the man.
Give it to
I'm
the
not good on
Army
the
guy.
phone.
Give it to the Army guy.
Thank you. Cool, all right.
The next issue we have, and I put it in your handout tonight, is the news item that I put in the newspaper every year relative to the snow ordinance that we have in the village. Now, I think trustee Lauricella, is that what you were referring to? Did you want me to read that? Or did you have some other comment you wanted to make about, it's on the second page of this. This is the first page, this is the second page.
Hold on a minute there. There's a lot of pages over there.
Well, it's right after the cover page. I put Lori ahead of me, that's why you can't find it.
Okay, I see the,
So this is what I put in the paper every year.
gotcha.
If you want me to read it, maybe the people out there in TV land can understand that. This is a reminder to the residents of the village of Wappingers Falls that the snow ordinance is in effect from December 1st, 2021 to April 1st, 2022. During this period, no person shall park a vehicle on any public street within the village between the hours of 12 midnight and 7 a.m. the next morning. It shall be the duty of the owner of every parcel of real estate adjoining a public sidewalk, whether the parcel of real estate is occupied by a structure or not, to keep such sidewalks adjoining such property free from snow and ice for a full paved width of each sidewalk. Snow and ice shall be removed within 24 hours after the end of the snowfall. In addition, sidewalks in front of the commercial establishments and commercial parking lots shall be kept free of snow and ice at all times between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. No person, firm, or corporation shall deposit, throw, place, or strew, nor shall any person, firm, or corporation cause to be deposited, thrown, placed, or strewn any snow or ice upon any street, avenue, or roadway within the village. Any person in violation of this law shall be subject to a fine. I don't know what the fine is, because I don't think we ever did it, but.
Well, thank you for reading that. So this was disseminated to the residents, right? So one of the problems is we're having, the reason why I asked for it to be put on the agenda is just so we could come up with some type of plan, because this past storm was a real problem, and though you know, some of us have had private conversations, it seems like it's best when these conversations are kind of officially done in this setting, and then there seems to be a little more proactive and positioning. I think there's a challenge because we have a lot of consistent non-compliance of these things, not to be a drag. But it causes a problem, particularly when it's in the central business district, when it's in the neighborhood settings where people want to or expect to or need to walk and need to do it safely. And, you know, we're taking days, and you know, trustees are having conversations about, wow, this is a problem, and some streets it was like the entire. So I just am asking what we should do about this, if anything. How do we go about it?
Well,
I believe it's a zoning issue, isn't it?
while it is a while it is a code violation, let's put it that way, I will tell you, many years ago, before the millennial, the 1997, I transported my son from his mother's place in Poughkeepsie to a caretaker in Wappingers, because my son was 2.5 years old. And it snowed on a Saturday. This is now Monday. And as I drove through, I was a trustee at the time, I saw all these sidewalks not shoveled. Came in, dropped him off, came to Village Hall. Mayor was there. May he rest in peace, Mayor Belding. I said, Butch, we have to do something. I'm going next door to the police department, and I'm gonna ask a policeman to write some tickets. A sergeant took the case, wrote 52 snow tickets that day. 52. And I gave him an order though. The first ticket that you write is to the man who drafted the law, Attorney Viglotti, and he did. And he was the first one to pay the ticket, $50. So, while it is a code violation, I do believe policemen can write these tickets. We got caught in a pinch on this storm because the storm happened on a Friday into Saturday, and we were closed on Friday, and our building inspector was off on Monday. So that created a bunch of problems. So,
well, the other thing is maybe we need to be sure that we're articulating our expectation to the resident or the business owner for clarity's sake, so that there's no, I don't want to demonize anyone.
That information also comes out in our mailings with our bills.
That's true.
So everybody knows.
I just want to make sure, 'cause I'm not trying to demonize anyone.
Yeah, people are aware.
Okay.
I believe they are.
This was an extraordinary amount of sidewalks that weren't shoveled for whatever particular reason. I know it was tough to get it off, but by my count, it was upwards of 75.
So, I just want to touch base. The entire board, we want everybody to understand that this cannot happen, and we will be enforcing and we will be handing out fines, and this is something that we should push to residents and let them know, because we have issues that are not getting resolved. Weeks of snow piled up on sidewalks and residents walking in main roads. So this is something that collectively we need to be on top of, and our zoning and building inspector needs to enforce, and we need to start fining, and we need to be serious about it.
And I'll be honest with you, and I don't want to play a little shell game here with an absentee landlord or a business that is not in a building anymore, but you can't just shovel one shovelful wide down in the central business district on Main Street. You got to do your whole sidewalk.
I agree. I just want to do it carefully, respectfully, and it's really for the betterment of the people who are trying to go to businesses, walk safely, get to their homes. It's an unfortunate thing to talk about. I feel like, like I said, I don't want to be dragged, but I just think we gotta, unfortunately, we're being put in a difficult situation, and
And there's a lot of unhappy residents that like to enjoy walking through this village on our sidewalks, and they can't do it. And they're in the streets, it's unsafe.
Or get to businesses, I mean.
We have,
on one side-
people have children getting the bus to school, and people trying to walk from their house to the gas station, or what have you.
Right.
And it is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
It really is. I fell on my own property, so I had no one to blame but myself, but man, I thought I was going to meet the maker. You know, so we gotta do it for safety. So if we could, so that being said, do we, make this conversation purposeful?
Yeah.
What?
So I'd like to make a comment toward your rhetorical question, and as you know, I sent 2 weeks ago, I sent everybody
Yes.
a proposed new chapter 132 entitled Snow Removal, where we'd repeal our present law.
Yeah.
And we would have a new law that had a little more teeth that you're seeking, as far as enforcement is concerned. And again, I would ask the trustees to look at that law and come up with suggestions in which we could better.
I think it was great. I think the only thing we had a trick with was knowing what the sweet spot is for the time frame.
Yeah.
That Trustee Ponte had brought up.
Trustee Ponte had some comments.
You can change this letter around, and you can change the local law we have right now to anything you want. Lacking enforcement, it doesn't matter. You can put in there anything you want, but if you don't enforce it, right? We want to spend $3,000 doing a local law to change what we already have that we don't enforce. Is that going to make you enforce it more by changing it?
Well, there might if it's
I mean, I get all the calls,
So I can tell you that the proposed law allows for enforcement by the code enforcement officer and the Village of Wappingers Falls Police Department. Okay, which is not the current law.
Right.
All right, differs in that respect. So if we had to call on the resources of the police department.
Right. Which that's a positive.
Mr. Mayor, I'm curious, to your knowledge, were any tickets handed out?
I'm just hearing something here that I haven't, I wasn't aware of, so it appears to me that somewhere between 1998 and today, we changed it where the police couldn't write a ticket for snow.
No, the new law that I drafted has a provision for the local police department to ticket.
Right, because you're saying prior to
the current version does not have that.
Well, that's my question. So they must have had the power in 1997, the police, to ticket.
Or they could have just done it. They could have. Could have, I guess.
Well, the police officer wrote 52 tickets that day.
We're also trying to make this a little more substantial so that repeat offenders that aren't doing their sidewalks, then it becomes the village's problem that they stop doing it.
Because it does create a lot of, we are wasting a lot of resources with some of these things, where we're trying, we're going back and forth, and even with Brian, our code enforcement, he has a tremendous workload, and so
he's one person.
To take that, the key is we want to get to compliance, right? That's our goal, not to fine and not to create problems for people.
On an average, how many snowstorms do we have a year?
You have 7 to 9 snow events.
Snow events where sidewalks have to be cleared?
Well, maybe 4 to 6.
So 4 days out of the year for our building inspector, or hopefully he has an assistant, which we know one just left, but to go out and take a ride around.
Every event.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, we just need to make it happen.
Well,
We're talking about 4 days out of the year.
No, I don't disagree with you, but what I'm saying is the point is ultimately the goal is that we just want it done. We don't want to be chasing it constantly. So what I think Trustee Sadati's saying is we want to get a system in place to where it's a big enough bite that you don't keep playing games and we don't have to keep going after you and finding. We want it to just get to a point where it's like, yeah, I don't even want to mess with it because
We have absentee landlords that don't shovel it all year long.
Even after we go after it.
Those four snow events a year that are substantial where you need to plow, that needs to be a priority in that department, that they know that they have to go out 24 hours after that snowfall and check.
That we
And then when
understand.
it
We're saying to
doesn't
make
go,
the
and
fines
people
and the
don't do anything
repercussions.
about it. So we want to put something in a little stronger so that they don't keep going, well, it's only $40. Well, that's what
That's what we're trying to do. That's the ultimate goal.
$250.
So the ultimate goal is to increase fines and
Like speeding past a box.
push people to do what's acceptable. So I guess we can move on. We know what we're gonna.
Commissioner Ferry wanted to say something?
Yeah, please. Just as far as the police issuing those tickets, it's, I mean, possibly in an emergency situation, business district, somebody takes a fall, wants somebody to be held accountable, we would do that. But to have police officers, I don't believe you need armed police officers to enforce snow shoveling. What's different between 1997 and 2021, or 2022 now, is the police reform. We don't want to have minor confrontations with police and citizens. We go there, armed police officer goes to somebody's house, tell them they got to shovel a walk, and it becomes something more than that. That's what we try to avoid now. We try to be a little more conscious of what we're enforcing and not going after minor violations, like not shoveling sidewalk. So I think it'd be bad to think we're going to go out there and write 50 tickets in a day because people didn't shovel. I mean, when it's a serious problem, we would address that. But I think it's a mistake that if you think that we're going to do it, I think it's a mistake. That's all.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Mr. Mayor, my earlier question, how many tickets are you aware of for this, for finance being written?
This score?
Under 10.
More than that.
Okay.
What was that?
There was- written.
I think it's under 10.
Okay. And apparently, this local law, from what Charlie, our police commissioner, Charlie Ferry just said, is not going to result in more tickets if passed, even though this local law proposes up to $350 per fine. And currently, we have one building inspector working, so we definitely have a shortage of manpower to get this done. So, anybody else with some ideas for proposals?
Well, let's put an ad in the paper for an assistant.
That's one way.
This way, we're going to try to get ahead of the game. You know, it's not prolong this. If this is the problem where we need an assistant, we should just put an ad in the paper.
Yeah, I
You
mean.
mean, an assistant when you need one for?
No, I'm saying assistant, period. He needs an assistant anyways.
This was,
The
this
building
law
department.
was not drafted with the idea that the police department would be the primary enforcement tool.
Yeah.
I
No,
didn't say-
we understand.
We understand that. We were
We
going
never
to
said that, Mr.
help Brian out with these.
But he is just one person, unfortunately. That's what we have right now in our inventory of workers. We have only one person who is also responsible
Well, for the last
for a
week.
site plan,
we
yes,
need
on
to
West
fill
Main
that
Street.
position. We just
But,
need to.
but that is on the
inspection.
agenda.
We only have 2 police officers working too,
It's
so
not-
we only have one more than that. And that's responsible for
Hold on. Trustee Sidoti.
We're getting a little off topic on what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do is revise this local law so that if we're going to go out and enforce and people are going to be repeat offenders and they get fined, it'll be a substantial fine where they will think twice about not maintaining their property. So in turn, when that happens, we take pressure off of our building department
Correct.
and code enforcing. That's what we're trying to do. We don't want to have to fine people, but if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they need to be held accountable. Financially is the only way we can do it. So
Correct.
that's what we're trying to do. It's not a matter of discussion right now for hiring more people and so on and so forth. This is where we're at.
I rebut your statement with all due respect, because as our conversation evolved, John Carge, our clerk, made the point about enforcement. If a law is not enforced, then no one will follow it.
We understand that. Correct. I understand that. So also, if we enforce with the $25 fine, I would continue not to shovel my snow if my position was not to shovel for $25. That's the point of the matter of changing this. We know we are going to work on our enforcement, and that's how I feel about it.
Well, you have at least 6 times a year where you can send out notices because they get billed for their water and sewer and garbage. So there's 6 times a year where every resident can get a notice.
Well, it's not hard. It snows, you shovel.
Right.
Everybody knows. We've been doing this since we were little.
Right.
I mean, most of us in this room have, I'm assuming.
That's the answer.
You live in the Northeast, you shovel.
Shovel.
I'm good at it.
It's the nature of the beast.
You know, unfortunately, I hate to bring it up, just in closing, it shouldn't be this difficult, and I understand there's a level of absurdity to this conversation. But it's just, you know, it's weighing on some of us, and we're fielding a lot of complaints, seeing it ourselves when we go to work, and so that's why I brought it up. It's not to get bogged down in the minutia of it. I understand there's like I said, it's quite an absurd conversation, but it's something that's real.
It shouldn't be an absurd conversation.
It feels like it is.
It should be straightforward.
Yeah, so
I just think there's two separate issues. The
There is-
enforcement is one thing, but the money, like you said, if it's $25, people aren't gonna care. If
Yeah.
it's $350 or $400.
People are gonna
if
care.
You add that with the enforcement that we will eventually take care of, then we have the combination that works.
Well said.
Well
Thank you.
said. Okay.
We'll encourage those people to come out to the public hearing.
Yeah. Flush them out. I just need to excuse myself for a moment. Can you flip flop my next thing with the company fire department?
William T. Garner provided us with a letter that they voted probationary period for member Nick Marshall to full active member of the company. They also accepted letters of resignation from Akil Tomlinson and Timothy Behan due to relocation out of the area. Can we accept their correspondence?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Mayor votes aye. 5-2. No vote for trustee Lauricella and Pompey. Okay, we'll pause for a minute while trustee Lauricella put the next item on the agenda for engineering firms. As you are well know that March 31st ends our association with KC Engineering firm, as they have sent a letter that will be the end for them. They don't plan on submitting another proposal. So we will have to get another engineering firm for the next year that, in this case, will occur in April of this year. So that lead in, I will turn it over to trustee Lauricella.
Yeah, thanks. So one of the, I missed what you said, but I'm assuming you said we need a new engineer.
Yes.
And so we really need to get this cracking. And trustee Sidati and I have been talking about things and trying to think about who we can secure. Clerk Carge, myself, trustee Sidati, and Brian Murphy also expressed interest in kind of putting together this committee to find someone new. Clerk Carge has given us some possible avenue, and I have checked a lot of the people that he's spoken about and some other things, and I found one that I was really excited to present, which I gave you just kind of the cover letter the simple one sheet of the rates. And I also, for comparison, gave you the same schedule of rates for our sunsetting engineer firm, just so you guys could see that they're actually below what we're currently paying. Is that?
No, I would suggest that you not get into discussion of any rates on the record. I think that's more appropriate for executives.
Yeah, well, I'm not. You have them to read. So, for comparisons, right? But I would like to invite, so I had a conversation with the fella from Robert Fulchetti and Associates. His name is Todd Atkinson. For full disclosure, I don't know the person. I've met him once or twice. I have no relationship with the person. He is the brother of a resident in the village that a lot of us know. And so I just wanted to make that clear. But what was really exciting, he was very generous with his time, and his firm has a lot of experience in a lot of different capacities. And the one thing that was really interesting that he told me was that depending on the projects, in-house, they do their own grant writing for projects. And I found that interesting because it's like, if you're doing the work, like it's like somebody coming to your house and saying, yeah, I'm going to fix your, I want to redo your bathroom, and I'm going to find half the money for you to pay me. That's pretty cool. And there's just there's a lot of experience. Does the Village of Brewster, does, well, there's things in the cover letter. I think 3 or 4 villages and 1 or 2 towns are in the middle of, major revitalization in Brewster. One of them being a joint, I'm sure you guys have read, one of them being a joint effort with private and public funding where they've knocked down a city block and are building it where it's going to be partially owned by the municipality. So I was really excited about the contemporary nature of their approach and how this kind of outside the box thinking and things that we could maybe really benefit from, and the experiences of revitalization that they're already in the middle of. So I would like you guys to, I will email, I didn't get the email till late today, I will send you the whole package that was sent, but I gave you the cover sheet, and like I said, the one sheet after that. And I really would love to be able to invite Todd to come and talk, because once he does, you'll be like, wow, this might be,
Well, see if he'll want to talk at the workshop, because I already have 2 questions just based on seeing this. I got 2 questions already.
Yeah. Cool. I will,
Put him on the workshop.
I would like to invite him. There could be a great opportunity to partner with consultant that.
Well, we're definitely going to need a new engineer, so the board is going to have to consider that shortly to hire a new engineering firm.
So I'll extend the invite, yes?
Yes.
For the workshop? Thank you.
Yes.
What time would be?
6 o'clock.
It starts at 6. Would I have them come at 6 or would I?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Or 5.
Good job.
Thanks. I'm really excited.
Okay, that,
Yes, 7.
that concludes the printed portion of the agenda.
No, we have the monthly update.
You didn't do the.
Oh,
We have the
sorry.
monthly update.
I'm in a rush.
Okay.
Police.
Well, we have our commissioner here tonight, so if you want to come up and maybe we had our meeting, you gave us a list. Would you like to go over that, or would you like me to go over that? And yeah, I also see you brought somebody here to introduce to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't bring my list with me. Could
Okay.
I sent you copies?
That's okay.
So you had progress, right?
Yes, well, we had gone over that Officer Farrell conducted a tour and police investigation demonstration with the Wappingers Falls Boy Scouts. She had brought them, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, just do a tour. I could actually get the, I thought I sent it to everyone, but I can get it here. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, we'll move to finance, and then you can come back, Charlie. Trustee Lauricella?
Well, I feel like the biggest thing is we're closing, I don't know. Well, I guess maybe we're closing in on a new treasurer. We need a new treasurer. The mayor's been interviewing. We're, you know, it's a real nail biter. We're waiting for what might happen. I don't know if the Edmonds program falls under the treasurer's position, but
We can talk about that.
that might go to, you know, and I'll pass it off there, but also I guess from a finance perspective, and I know we'll talk about it, but I see it here, we did get dinged for significant financial distress again.
We almost made it now.
Boo!
2 points for Mars.
Huh? Was that?
We almost missed the list.
Yeah.
I provided that paper,
Yeah.
because so far the leading candidate for the treasurer's position provided me that sheet. And this is one of the reasons why he is in the top position outside of his credentials. Okay. But we are in a serious position right now. I personally think if we just keep paying our bills and the debt service, that number will come up so that we get off of that worst position and we're in less distress.
We'll go from worse to bad. That's good.
Well, we'll move up some points. We're only a few points away from the next level. Okay. Highway, Trustee Sidoti?
Okay, so our highway's taking possession of the new loader that we scheduled for them to be receiving.
Okay, hold on a second while you're there. So, what about that loader that's taken apart at the highway barn? Now that we got the new one, what's gonna happen with that one? That one that's in the highway barn?
Backhoe?
The backhoe?
They're waiting on parts for that.
We're talking about the
Oh, okay, excuse me.
Talking about the new loader.
So, we have a brand new loader too, don't we?
yeah, yes.
Came in, yeah.
That's what the brand new loader just came in.
Okay.
And a push snow box for that loader.
Okay. And now we have the backhoe that's in the highway barn, and we have an existing
Loader.
backhoe, correct?
Correct.
Do we also have a second backhoe?
2 backhoes, 2 loaders.
Yeah.
2 operating backhoes?
One right now.
Okay, so we have a backhoe in the highway barn that has been in the barn for 5 or 6 years. Do we have a plan to either scrap it or repair it? So we have a backup.
Repair it.
6 years, so no plan has been presented?
No?
This back wasn't down for 6 years.
6 years it's been.
I don't think it's been 6 years.
How about I get back to you on that? All right?
Okay,
You know, I can't give you an answer right now.
okay.
So, getting back to that, we received a new loader, the snow push box, and just want to say that the highway guys did an excellent job these last couple storms cleaning the snow, and very happy with their service. That's all I have.
Okay, when you get back with the board, just try to find out how much it costs to do the repair job on the backhoe. If there's a best guess estimate for a repair to fix it.
Right.
Because budget time is coming up, so
Right,
it would be
absolutely.
good to put it in the budget if it's a reasonable amount.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, Charlie?
So, just so everybody knows that the police reports, the monthly reports are available online. We started in January at the department's website, which is wfpd.info or wapagesfallspolice.org. We're keeping some news and information for the community there, and also on our Facebook page. So this is already out to the community, but if people haven't seen it. Our 2022 Wapages Falls Police Community Survey is finished, and I put that online. I sent it to the board. Overall, we're very pleased with it. It seems like the community is happy with the service that we're getting. And the places where they aren't happy, we now know that, and we're going to move to improve. So I think it's a very useful survey. We have 2 new marked vehicles that came in. They're on the road now. The vehicles replaced will go to unmarked vehicles, and we'll get the 2 oldest cars in the fleet that are not in too good shape. We talked about community policing. The only other thing I'd add to that is we do now with the warm weather coming again, we're doing child safety seat inspections, and with the lifting of the masks and the whole COVID issues. So we're doing child safety seat inspections again. If anybody wants to get those done, they should call the police desk and just make an appointment to come in and have it done. Very important to have children to get that done. Patrol activity during the month of January 2022. Patrol officers were dispatched to 367 calls for service. 80 traffic tickets were issued and 103 parking tickets were issued. During the month, there were 13 arrests resulting in charges including aggravated unlicensed operation, criminal mischief, assault, and driving while intoxicated. Patrol officers conducted 450 checks of village parks, 1,080 targeted checks of neighborhoods, 990 targeted checks of the business area, and 180 targeted checks of government facilities. Police officers conducted 42 targeted traffic observations, and we didn't start this till about mid-month of January, so there'll be more as we move on. 42 targeted traffic observation enforcement details. Locations of these details included South Avenue, Elm Street, Mill Street, East Main Street, North Messier, South Messier, Clinton Street, Market Street, Spring Street, Academy Street, Brookside, Delaverne, List Road, Nelson Avenue, and West Academy Street. The training during the month, we had 4 officers completed the Civilian Response to Active Shooter Instructor course, so they're ready to present that course to the community groups or to just members of the community. We'll be rolling some more information about that soon. 2 officers attended Proactive Patrol Tactics Seminar, and that's about the end of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire and Lake? Trustee Huber?
Fire, there were 22 calls for the month of January. Yeah, 22 calls for the month of January. And we had a meeting with the ambulance, and I think it went well, I guess. Mike?
The meeting with the ambulance company, when we met with Pete, what is his last name, John? Chanella, yes. It went very well. The only thing that we called into question was one late ambulance arrival time where an ambulance was detoured for an accident that was in Arlington, but there's something called the duty to act law, which actually required the ambulance to reroute and go to that accident crash scene. And that's why the response time was late. So we came up in our meeting with no actual findings, and everything looked fairly consistent with the national average of a response time of 9 minutes or less.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for following up with that. That's huge.
Yep. And Lake, I would like this year for the lake is to hire a seasonal person where he can come in from May until October-ish, give or take. This way we don't have to, this way we have somebody more than 90 days. If you bring them in too early, there isn't many weeds, and then the 90 days start when he first comes here. And if he comes too late, then it's a lot more weeds. So figure if we can make them seasonal, we can get a bigger head start on the weeds of clearing them and cutting them.
Would that be a 20-hour part-time position?
Part-time position, or yeah, I mean we can do it part-time again. It seemed to work very well last year. Got a lot of compliments.
Well, let's see how we stand on the budget. Maybe you'll get the seasonal and a part-timer.
Okay.
If we can squeeze the extra money in.
You're saying 2 of seasonal?
Correct.
And the seasonal would be full-time?
Well, just
No.
Oh.
Yeah, if they're working 20 hours a week, you know.
No, that's fine. You just said a
you can
seasonal and a part-time.
You get 8 to noon, and when in the summertime, it's
Mayor,
sunlight.
Mayor,
9 to 5.
we could, that sounds great. Maybe we can put the seasonal in the budget and the part-timer where we did last year. We took it out of the lake fund. And that wasn't a burden on the taxpayers.
When the budget time's up, but I would be in favor of 2.
Okay?
Yeah, but can I ask you, when did we hire, or when did he start last year?
He started in June.
Late June.
Yeah, late June. So, and he went to, right to the end of September, I think it was. But
He's already indicated he would like to do it again. With that operator.
yes, I would like him to do it again too.
All right. Safety.
Village clerk, safety.
I am in receipt of a handbook from our broker, Pete Carr.
Take care.
And it's in your handout there. It's quite a bit there to it. But what I would like to do as the safety officer is create a handbook using some of that data for our new hires to put in their new hire package and have them sign that acknowledged it. But moreover, there's a vehicle fleet safety policy on page 10. It's a sample that they put in there that we could adopt because we don't have one to my knowledge today for our drivers, which would include all the drivers in all the departments, including fire. Now, I do know that we can't adopt anything into a handbook without the union approvals. So I would reach out to the 3 union reps, give them a sample of this, and if they didn't have any problem with it, maybe you could adopt it somehow into a local law. I don't know. But I just got this. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of good stuff in there about safety that drivers should be aware of. And that's all I have on that. So I'll be working on that as we go along. The trip hazard on East and West Main Street still remains a trip hazard because of the weather. We haven't been able to have our electrician work with our highway department to saw cut those trip hazards out and replace them with like a metal cover of some sort. So that's where we are with safety. Recreation.
Recreation, oh geez. There's a meeting February 22nd at 7 p.m. in the courtroom here on February 22nd. They moved it from the Legion to the court. I don't know why, but they did.
Okay.
So, Jen, is that person, you can let them know?
Yes.
Thank you.
Water, we had the water board meeting. We discussed an ongoing issue involving 5 properties. 4 along South Mizzier and 1 on Prospect. We're going to be holding a public hearing, I believe, on that item. We're going to try to move forward to try to find a solution to this issue. It involves a water leak on the property, on private property. It's been an ongoing issue, and we've been discussing the filtration plant and well maintenance. And at this point, I'll also do sewer. So we had the Tri-Muni meeting, as you heard. With the grant writer, there's about $11 million worth of work scheduled, depending when financing can get lined up between all three towns at the sewer plant, of which we're responsible for about 40% of that money. So it's like $4 million and change when this work is done. So that's a consideration. And that's that. And so I'll say trustee Niznik for personnel.
May I have one thing?
Sure.
So just so the public is aware, that public hearing, I believe, is going to be February 14th at 4:30 PM
That is
here in
correct.
Village Hall. And anybody who is interested in that water leak is welcome to attend.
What time?
4:30.
We're actually trying to get a link for, there's one owner that wants to
Right.
remote in from California.
Because that's where he lives and he's power of attorney for his mother.
Thank you.
Well, I would say after our conversation tonight, we're in need of a part-time planning zoning person.
I would agree with that.
So, add that to our list. That's about all we have for personnel tonight.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Can we just put an ad in the paper for that position right now, or?
Let's.
I wanted to talk about the building department, and I think that's an executive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
So before
No problem.
we do that, I just have some interesting ideas and thoughts
Right.
about how we can help our current.
Questions, comments before we go to executive session?
I think Charlie, you wanted to introduce,
If you want me to, yeah.
Yeah. because he wouldn't go into executive, right? He
Yeah.
would be introduced here.
Oh,
Yeah, brought with me tonight, Officer James Hipple. He worked with us for a little over a year now. He came from New York City Police, retired, spent time there as a supervisor. Bringing him tonight, hopefully will be with the board to have him promoted to the position of a part-time sergeant in the department. February, I have his resume, master's in public administration. He has a lot of credentials, and he's very energetic to help with the progress of the department.
you gonna talk? Or?
Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted to wait for executive session. You wanted me to say hello now? Okay. Good evening, folks. My name is James Hipple. I'm a police officer for just about a year. It's funny, about a year ago, this is when I had my interview with the previous board members. Came on sometime at the end of February. Like the commissioner said, I served just over 20 years. And I have been a supervisor in the rank of sergeant in New York City. I served out of Central Park, so I'm used to working with the civilians. I'm out and about a lot. Since I've transitioned and retired, I came here. This is a great department. I enjoy working here. The commissioner brought up my name for supervisor. So I'm currently here enrolled in the domestic violence. I'm doing the checks for domestic violence. I went for the sexual assault training a couple months ago. So I'm actively working with the department's website to try to include sexual assault and domestic violence information on our website, because our website's kind of narrow right now. We're looking to expand. So these are some of the things that I'm doing. Just looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Your Honor, anything to add?
Well, it's very interesting,
Okay.
just sitting in, and I can see that with some of the topics that you hit on tonight have some court implications for the court. So I found this very informative just to sit in on your meeting. So I'll keep some of your comments and concerns in mind as we process some of the cases that come through. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn into executive session.
I'll make it.
Let's see, Kevin, trustee Huber and trustee Niznik.
All right, if you, I have it.
For,
I wanted to tell them.